First item on the agenda is the 2026 Plan of Conservation Development. We're going to have a discussion with Hardesty and Hanover, our consultants, regarding the kickoff of the planned update process. In our packets or our documents, we got a document that I think these gentlemen are over with us. But welcome. Please just state your name so everybody knows who you are. We can introduce ourselves too.
Thank you. My name is Neil Desai from H&H, which you might know as Hardesty in Hanover. We're told to say H&H now, so
You are.
you'll hear that now. And this is my colleague Malcolm Simpson, also from H&H. He's here with me today, and he's going to be helping me take notes. This is also recorded, so that's helpful as well to us in case we miss anything, any comments from you. But welcome. Thank you so much for taking a look at what materials I sent to you. I'm looking forward to your comments. Winter's the best time to start planning for public engagement because things are cold, nothing's happening. The streets are pretty empty. Although there are a lot of people walking their dogs and at the coffee shop, especially this evening. But it's the right time to start sitting down and planning. What are we going to do for this? How are we going to engage the public in this plan of conservation update process? So the four things I wanted to go through are what we're the branding, what we're calling this project, and the logo. I didn't want to make that much of a project because the project is the Pocd, not the logo of the project. But I still want to hear from you about the logo and the name of the project to confirm that's what we want to call this project and how we want to brand it. The schedule is really important. I'm proposing a February 7th launch where the website goes live. And I was gonna. After this next day, I was going to call the town communication director to kind of coordinate with her. But I wanted to first, make sure I get your comments and confirm that date's going to be workable for you all. The FAQ is important because it's not just the FAQ that goes on the website or something that we distribute to people, but it's going to be the language that we use to communicate about the Pocd throughout the process. So we're going to make sure that we're using the same language and not changing the language around, but we're using the same language. As new questions come in, we can add questions. If you have suggestions for other questions, or we can certainly incorporate those. And lastly, of course, is the website, which will be the main online portal that people will be using to see what this project is all about, provide input, and so that's what I really want to talk about today as we start unpacking the public engagement schedule. But I guess, do we want to talk about the branding first? That's the first item.
Well, let me have you introduce all the commissioners to you, because you're going to be working on this for the next 16 months, so it might be important if you know us and our names and whatnot. Yeah. You want to go first?
Jamie Zanuck. I'm the newest member.
Yeah.
George Riley. I hate to say the oldest member.
Most tenured.
Yes. Thank you for that.
Adam Balgash, the vice chair.
Adam's the vice chairman of the commission.
Amy Barsanti.
John Zagrodzky, ex officio.
And John's obviously the first selectman. I think you met John once before. You both
Yes,
of
we
you guys.
did.
I'm Stephen O'Vanny. I'm the chairman of the commission. One thing I wanted to tell you is that I was on the commission in 2016 when we did the last one. I think it went well. I think at the end of the day we had a great product that came out. So I have some takeaways from that I would like to try to put into the process on this one. Everybody else, to my knowledge, I know for a fact, was not on the commission then. So it's a little bit of a newer process for them. Jeremy's been here since, he was 15 years old. So he's seen 6 of these. Were you here in 2016?
I joined the town in 2016, so I was on the tail end of it.
Okay. So Fred's kind of a little bit new to this process. And I know you guys, Hardesty and Hanover, H&H, blended from a bunch of different firms recently. So we're glad to have you. We're glad that you accepted our proposal to document this. Going to your first item, let me just jump off on the branding. The only thing that I would suggest that you change is the word update to just 2026.
Okay.
I mean, we're going to update this thing all the time, but just to give a context of what it is, if anybody has any comments relative to that, that's fine. I mean, I don't think last time we had a discussion on branding, but
yeah, I think it'll certainly help when Neil works with Marley Hayes, who's the town's communication person. Facebook, Instagram, newsletter. John has a newsletter, the town has a newsletter. So there'll be things are a lot different than they were 10 years ago.
I think it's a great idea. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Okay, that was the first thing. Then the other thing, I went through your document in particular. Do you have the old Pocd with you at all? The only thing that I'm 90% sure is in this one, but I'm gonna double check it, is I think we had a mission statement at the beginning and from the P and Z.
Board of Selectmen.
And a mission statement from the Board of Selectmen. So John is the first selectman, so you may want to have a meeting with them. And I forget did we have a mission statement from P and Z or just from the Board of Selectmen?
I think it was from the Board of Selectmen, overall big picture that was in the town plan.
Okay.
I'll pass that along to John,
Okay.
so he can get a sense.
And I don't know if the consultant wrote it or the Board of Selectmen wrote it, or it was a combination of both. I mean, we edit everything, I know that.
Right.
We didn't edit anything the Board of Selectmen did.
I'll get that up to both the commission and to John.
Right. And I think that's one of the threshold things that we probably want to do.
And that's a mission statement for the POCD or of their own operations?
I think it was for the POCD. We can look at what it says, but it was either a mission statement or a statement of purpose, something like that, of why we're doing this. I mean, yes, it's required by statute, but
Right.
there's a lot of things that are not required by statute that the town does anyway. I mean, I don't know if the 5-year plan that the Board of Finance does every now and again, if that's required, but that's something the town does.
It's not
But-
required.
Yeah, it's not required, it's not a state requirement. But those are one things I want to bring at the beginning. And then we can go through your items. Is there anything else that you guys want to add that you saw offhand really quick?
Not right now, I'd love to hear it.
Can I ask one thing quick? Just as far as the branding does the town have a style guide or something with their fonts and just to make it easier for Marley so that she can match when she's doing social media?
Yeah, what I would do is just give her the general sense of the image that you want to use and let her work with the fonts to make it consistent, and she can help you with that.
That's fine. So you might do some back and forth with Marley.
Yeah, I'll give her a call tomorrow about all of this. Right.
Fantastic. Go ahead, you're up.
Thanks. Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, and that's, thanks for the intelligence from the 2016 POCD. That's very helpful for some continuity between the two plans. The schedule and the launch. So I'm going to scroll down. If you hope this is small on the screen, but I'm sure you have a copy of it as well. But what I did is I took the original schedule of the tasks and I laid out the key events and milestones that over the course of the project, specifically public engagement milestones especially, and when those happen. And so you'll see I'm proposing the February 7th launch, and I think that's something which I think it can be changed. It's not going to be a problem, but I just want to put something down so we can talk about it. And when I speak with Marley, is her name, I'll also ask for her advice whether that's workable in terms of coordinating the town's communications with the website and all that. So,
What does launch mean?
launch is essentially so the website right now exists in the draft form, but it'll eventually be finalized. And the launch essentially is 5 different things. Number one, it's posted. My thinking was that it would be posted on the newsletter, the town's newsletter, which goes out on Fridays. That'd be the first thing. So then basically the website becomes public and people can go to that. That's the launch. And so the town's Facebook, potentially Darien Times, getting in touch with them, and just getting the word out that this project exists. The website is alive. You can start engaging with the website, reading what's on there, contributing if you already have something to say. That's what the launch essentially is.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're launching the website.
Yeah, launch of the website, and so the public knows about it. And so right now, the public, will know about it, that there's a draft that exists, but not the final version. So if we go through, really, so that's the really, for the next couple of weeks, that's really the most important objectives, is to get this all packaged up and ready and launched. And then once that happens, we can proceed to the next steps, which will involve coming up with a townwide survey. And I've plotted on this at least for the next couple of P&Z meetings. I think one on February, and this is of course depending on your agendas, and one in April. I'm projecting the potential opportunity to come again with you, sending in advance, for example, a draft survey, and we can talk about that and get your comments on that. I sent, just recently, I sent Fred and Jeremy a table with all of the a worksheet, Excel worksheet with all the recommendations, the action items for the 2016 POCD, to get some information on what's been implemented, what's not been implemented. And so we have a record of that, and that's going to be very useful because this is an update. We want to really look back at what was accomplished, what wasn't accomplished, why, what carries over into, what could carry over into the next plan. So that'll be another kind of deliverable that we send to you along with the survey in advance of the, what I'm saying is the February 28th meeting, but whatever makes sense in terms of your agenda when we can come in and talk about that.
Hold on one second. In the old plan, those 2 pages, the action items, we call them something different than action items, but was that in the plan or was that a separate document?
There were many at the end of each chapter. So what Neil has done is given me chapter 1. Here's the recommendations. Chapter 2. So I have a giant spreadsheet. What Neil asked me is what was done, what was accomplished, what is underway, what wasn't accomplished, and if it wasn't accomplished, do you have a sense of why? Was it impossible? Was it out of our control? Was it something which, whatever?
Wasn't that a separate document?
There might have been, at the end of the past document, we talked about various agencies that would be responsible. So I remember a big chart of agencies: Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, Connecticut DOT, whatever it might be, the RTM, and who those agencies are, because what our past consultant, Glenn Chalder, did was try to, for each recommendation, figure out who would be responsible. So, for example, if it's a blight ordinance, it might be the RTM. If it's a tree ordinance, maybe that's the RTM. If it's a work with DOT to get better traffic light coordination on Route 1, that would be DOT. So there would be a variety of agencies involved in various recommendations, and obviously a variety of reasons why something may have proceeded or not proceeded. And of course, one of the
Verb 2 is action items were, and I don't know where it would be in the document. I thought it was at the end. One was the sign ordinance, and then the second was the zoning ordinance. So that's when we hired him again.
Yes.
At first we did the signs, and then we did the whole zoning code all over again.
Right. And of course,
But I thought that was, because I remember that was Susan Cameron's big thing. We had this big 100-page document.
we want to understand,
What
as
do you
Neil
do?
said, some of these may carry forward. It was a great idea then. Some things, of course, what happens in the interim is state statutes change, which require commissions to do other things, and opportunities come up which we would have, of course, never envisioned, like Great Island. We didn't envision the town buying Great Island many years ago.
But I bet you there's a handful of things on that other one from 10 years ago that we did not do.
That's true. I started looking at the list, and you're like, oh, I never, yeah.
We forgot
So
about that.
I'll be working with Neil, and that's really our role, is to give Neil background information, what we've done over the past 10 years, what progress we've made in certain areas, and
Great. Yeah, I'm going to get into that in workshop number 1 when he gets to that piece. Okay.
Yes, that'll be a great accounting of the accomplishments and what's left. And also, I think ultimately when we talk about the survey, we want to look back at the 2016 kind of, what they call principles and goals for each section. And
Great.
somehow, we haven't started writing the survey yet, but that's what we're thinking of. But so ultimately, I want to make sure that we're having kind of very, very focused products for you to look at each meeting, so we can use our time productively. It helps us, your input helps us move forward, and that sort of thing. And so the schedule continues on up until about May is when we start putting in some placeholders. We're not sure exactly what date that's going to be, but probably that month. So we talk about the when we might have the workshop, when we might do some sort of outreach at maybe a farmer's market or at somewhere else, where we do something in public where we kind of hit people who aren't expecting it, and that sort of thing. So, we've plotted in some of those months and dates where they may occur, and as we move along, we'll start to get into more specifics when we, into more specific dates when we speak with you in the future about those.
Because workshop number 1, you have it titled Envisioning Darien, and the title doesn't really much matter, but what I would like to do is, what did we do in the past 10 years, and where we are today?
Yeah, those are
I can guarantee
placeholder.
Dallas to Donuts, we did not, I don't remember when we launched Corbin 2. It's actually, the Corbin district, what you know about, it's actually flipped.
Oh.
Corbin 2 came up, Corbin 1, which is built today, came up after Corbin 1 was approved.
Okay, interesting.
So they built phase 2 before they built phase 1.
Right.
We knew the one that the hole in the ground today was coming,
Yeah.
but I bet you back then, we didn't know phase 2 was coming, right? I don't even, we probably knew about, Palmer's we knew about and Federal we knew about, because that Norton Heights overlay district was
In the works,
20
was already
years old.
under.
That was Fred Conzi, yeah, I mean, that's 15 years ago. But, I wanted to say, because I think this commission in the last 10 years has done a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
So I want to say what, amongst us, it doesn't have, the plan's not a going back thing, it's a going forward thing. So I want to be able to tell everybody in some kind of form that, this is what we did and this is where we are today.
Right.
You have it down as envisioning Darien, that word just kind of, I'm not.
Those
a
are
big fan.
placeholders. I
Right,
just
I
wanted to
know,
put something.
I get it, I get it.
Yeah.
We're not envisioning Darien.
No,
to be,
yeah, we already
all
know.
skyscrapers in 10
Right.
years.
Right. So even the same thing next one, workshop 2 is just planning. Whatever. It's
Right,
just
yeah,
placeholder
I call
terms,
it next steps. What do we
Yeah.
want to do?
But we will absolutely get it, when we get to that point, we want to, make sure, for example, I'm showing here in the schedule, potentially April 8th meeting. That's when we want to discuss in more detail. We want to send you, this is our idea for the workshop agenda, what happens, and, you can comment on it. And we already have some suggestions from you already, so we know that now, as far as what kinds of things you'd like to.
Because like other towns like a Greenwich or a Wilton or a New Canaan or a Westport, part of what their next steps were parking downtown and parallel parking and, angled parking, widening sidewalks and doing all this. We're not doing any of that.
Right.
We can't because we're on the post road.
Right.
Right. Westport can, New Canaan can, Greenwich can. Yeah, that's not us. So when you're envisioning what you're going to change in town, Wilton is building an entire new downtown. They're starting from scratch. It's called Wilton Center.
Yeah.
That's what we're not doing. Okay.
Thanks. So any other questions about the schedule so far? Anything? Okay.
Is the workshop with public input, or is that just a P&Z meeting?
No, the workshop would be the public event.
That's what okay.
Yeah.
So you're gonna plan on probably having that at like the library, I'm guessing?
Yeah, we will be talking about that for sure. What are the best venues
Okay.
for that
Because
workshop?
if that's the only one in the beginning, we don't want to have that at like a coffee shop. Or like,
No.
Oh,
you know,
yeah, so-
you know what I mean. I know you have the pop-up event, which I think
Right.
is what that's more
Yes,
geared
that's
towards. But I'm just not sure what the difference between workshop 1 and a pop-up event would be.
So a pop-up event would be, really it's reaching people where they already are. So not inviting them to this pop-up event. We're going to be at a place where there's people already there, whether it's,
But
like I said.
To what end, since the survey's already been done?
Well, we want to get more input because there's people who still might not even heard about it, the
'Cause we
process.
talked
You
about
never
that.
know.
Yeah.
We talked about that with one of the, and I forget who we talked about, is, there's a big thing on Memorial Day. It's the, it's the food fair
Uh-huh.
on Memorial Day weekend. And there's all kinds of booths. You can buy a hot dog, you can play games, you can face paint. We go meet the consultants and talk about the town plan and conservation development. You'll see a bazillion people there.
Yeah, that's great because,
The average age is 10.
yeah. Well, we certainly, you know, get youth input too, but
With
they don't want to know
every
what
10-year-old
they don't. We
comes
don't we don't talk about plan of conservation with them. We just talk about what they like about the town and that sort of thing. But yeah, that type of event where it attracts a lot of people, you know, you know, we were there, and like I said, the thing that I like about it is that it kind of hits people when they're not expecting it. It gets a lot of people that didn't know about it still somehow, or they weren't involved usually, and here's their chance to talk to somebody and give some input. So it's kind of it just kind of rounds out things. So rather than having, you know, not just having a workshop where people, you know, who want to come and have the time to come, but also trying to get people who may not be usually come to workshops.
But just so you know, it's the parade's a Saturday, or is it Sunday or Monday? Is it on? Is it on?
For what?
The more they.
Memorial Day.
Parade's on Memorial
It's on
Day.
Monday?
Memorial
Parades
Day.
can go Monday.
Yeah.
It's on Monday.
So if you want to come, you're working
That's a
on
great,
Monday.
yeah, that's a great option. We talk about farmers markets.
To
but we-
that, Mike.
Yeah, I need your name for the record,
Yes.
please.
My name is Malcolm Simpson with H&H. We talk about street fairs, we talk about farmers markets.
Right.
I mean, that's perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for.
I mean, just
So-
sitting in Cafe Nero was chock full of people. Just the thought we had is that we can just go here and set up a table and just talk with people, you know, because that's what they're there to doing work and say. But those are just, you know, things we're throwing out.
Yep.
We'll definitely brainstorm more about what event that would be, where that would be, and you know, there's also these, you know, we show here committee meetings and focus groups. A focus group doesn't have to be a formal focus group. It could be like another type of event, like a pop-up event, another one, or it can be something that is more structured, where we feel like we haven't got input from, I don't know, business owners or something, and we need to, you know, we need to hear more from them. We'll have that as part of the package of what we do to reach out.
You can go to a Chamber of Commerce meeting, they got it, meet once a month, I believe.
In terms of the schedule, if I may, I'm very interested in ensuring that you coordinate with the Great Island consultants who are very busy already. I'd really want to encourage you to put a date on your schedule for a meeting with them,
Okay.
maybe in April or later after we've done our survey. I believe they've done a survey.
Right.
And I know they have a lot of input about what town folk, they've done three of them.
Yeah, I've seen it too.
Okay, well, they've got a lot of input, and I suspect that can help. I think, you know, in terms of planning, I don't know, you know, the town pool is always an interesting issue, so I don't know whether there's a movement afoot to put that at Great Island, but you may hear that there is a movement afoot for a town pool someplace.
Right.
I don't know. That kind of input, I think, is what they're gathering, and a lot of other information. And I want to make sure that that doesn't get lost in the sauce as you are putting together the overall town plan. I really think that we're putting big investments in both of these projects just at this stage. So I encourage you to do that. You know, I'm sure you need willingness on the other side too, but I don't know why there wouldn't be.
Yeah, I mean, no, thank you for you know, emphasizing that, because, right, they've already done surveys. Those surveys can bring out sentiments that don't necessarily, they could apply to Grand Island, but they could also apply to other parts of town as well. Like
Exactly.
you said, town pool. So,
Well, to
They're
that
gonna do
end,
they're gonna do another survey, and there's actually gonna be a workshop, at least one, maybe two this spring, in the run-up to the development of the master plan for Great Island, and so piggybacking on some of that for stuff that you guys are doing might be more efficient.
But I think we want to make it clear in our mission statement that this is not just Great Island's development, because my hunch is that you're going to get a lot of the more motivated Great Island people just hammering this with the exact same, I want this on Great Island, I don't want this, I don't want this, like the same exact points. So we need to make it, I think in our mission statement, and certainly when you're drafting the survey, you know, maybe looking at the Great Island surveys will help to, so those are questions we don't necessarily need to ask, because we want to focus more on the development of the town as a whole, as opposed to what everybody's interested in, which is
Right.
Great Island.
right.
and in fact, that could be a good question for the FAQ to say specifically, you know, how does this relate to Great Island vision
But
plan?
let me step back a second. The other thing that's gonna happen is that the Parks and Rec Department, it's required they have to do a master plan every 10 years?
The last one was 2018. In fact, Neil, I think, We gave Neil a copy, and I think he's going to link to it on the website.
Okay. Because we had a meeting of the Operations and Planning Council last week, and yours is going to end, this is going to end, and theirs is going to start. So we want that to coordinate too, because, I mean, in terms of projects, just what these two gentlemen just said is, we're paying for this one, a study, we're paying for this study, and then we're going to pay for another study. We don't need to say the same thing, but
Right.
everyone wants to piggyback on off of each other.
Okay.
So you got to meet with the Parks and Rec people or go to one of
Sure.
their meetings.
Okay.
I mean, all these people, you're going to meet all these people.
Yeah.
And they're very important roles in town.
Yeah, and that's definitely one of the commissions, when I was looking at the list, that, I wanted to,
Because Great Island is not under Parks and Rec.
right, it's a
Great
separate
Island's on
steering
the board of
committee or
selectmen.
something like that, I believe.
You got it.
Town property is just not a park.
Got it.
It either is Highland Farms.
Correct.
Okay.
All right.
You're doing good. Keep going.
Thanks. So, the draft FAQ, so, any questions, comments, additions,
That's what this
changes
is.
on this one? Like, as I mentioned before, it's just, we want to be able to use consistent language throughout the process, and so this kind of is a way, not only of putting these right on the website and telling people, but it's something we can draw upon. When Darien Times writes about it, they can pull language from here so that it's saying the same things that we're saying about the process. So, I don't know how you read this, whether some of you might, whether you just had some general changes and or what, but I'm curious to hear if you have anything.
I have some specific changes, but I'm going to let other people go first. You want to go first at all, Amy? Is there anything special that jumped out at you?
Not yet.
Okay. Want to pass?
Pass it down, yeah.
Pass. Adam?
I would just say along the same lines of, the town plan of conservation development 2026, instead of bullet point 2 saying like, why is it being updated? Maybe just like, why is the town going through this process or something like that? Because we don't want to give the impression we're just taking a document, redlining a couple paragraphs to refresh it and then sending it out. We're
Right.
really thinking about this differently because there has been so much development in town. We're now thinking about, okay, managing that development as opposed to the 2016 one, which was more about how can we develop the town a little bit more.
Yeah, that's a good point, because, right, the way it's stated right now, it's just like, oh, we're just doing it because we have to.
Right, and it's we have to do it, but I think it's
Right, there's
it's
more
an-
than just that.
I think it's important now, just because there's been so many changes throughout town. What does the next 10 years look like? Because it's drastically different. A sleepy town like Ridgefield, 10 years later, it might just be an update. We're not doing much development, not much
Right.
is happening. It's a sleepy town. We're not doing anything. Here's the update. But this is we're in a totally different ballgame from 10 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, Richfield's a great example. And there's another town that's up in Fairfield County, the one that's getting whole development they created downtown. George, anything before I go?
Well, back on my favorite topic, I guess, of coordinating with the Great Island, but also Park and Rec, I think, is it number 2? What other topics? Number 4, sorry. Somewhere in there, you may want to indicate that you are aware of the Great Island Master Plan and
Right.
the upcoming Park and Rec plan, and that you hope to interface with those people, build in topics that may come up, and be sure not to duplicate, something like that. But it seems to me that might be good to highlight specifically in that number 4.
Thanks, yeah.
Anything else, George?
No, that's good.
Jamie?
Just have a quick one. At what point will we have a timeline for when you'll be meeting with other town commissions, committees that might even have input on the survey questions?
It's, well, for now, I put it in the schedule, in May and June. But, right, if there's something that we, if there's intelligence that we need to get from a committee that was gonna be really important, so we'll take your sessions. Like, did you say specifically the Parks and Rec Commission is somebody we should get in touch with sooner rather than later?
Just
think
you
we just
guys.
need to-
I would just go to the Board of Selectmen.
The one thing that I have is in point number 1, when you first start off with saying, actually number 2, what is the plan and why is the plan being updated? one of the things that I think it's important for residents to understand is that this is the document that we consult as a planning and zoning commission. When issues are brought before us, it's our litmus test to say, is this consistent with the development of what our residents and our officials believe to be the development of Dairy-Ann's future? And I think that's a really important thing that we need to engage, we'll grab people to engage them, to say, now's the time.
Right.
Tell us what you want.
Okay, thank you.
May I just embellish real quickly that also works on the other side from the applicants. They will also often quote the
Right.
POCD to us
That's
Yep.
right.
and highlight how it fits.
Yep.
Like, if you come up with a recommendation that we should raise all buildings to 7 stories in town, I can guarantee you Dallas Permits it's getting crossed out.
Right. All right.
Because that could be, I think in the old plan, we were really 2 stories, and then it went to 3. But that's something that we looked at.
Yeah, one other thing, just to give people a sense for just what the content is of one of these, instead of just the shorter description that you have in 3, which is what state's required, and then in 4, you might just list out the table of contents from the 2016 plan. It says these were all the different topics that were covered in the plan, just to give people a sense of the kinds of topics that we definitely want to address in this plan. There may be more or less, but it would just give them some suggestions as to, oh, well, I see it covered this last time. I want to have some input on that. And they may not have known to ask that without actually seeing the table of contents.
Right. I like that. It's more direct. I mean, this is what we're going to be talking about. This is the list.
And some of the things in the old plan we may not talk about,
So it's a starting point.
Yeah, it may come out as, who cares? What did I have? Jamie, did you go? Okay, you're good. Up top where it says long-term vision, I said long-term 10-year vision.
Okay.
I mean, someday it's gonna be like the Jetsons and we're gonna have flying cabs around town. We're
Yeah.
not going that far out.
Right. We'll bookend it 10-year vision.
Yeah, something like that.
But what we plan could well go well beyond that.
Agreed. And
Well,
then.
in 10 years, you'll be able to comment, from that position, exactly how it turned out.
Right, exactly. That's why we want to go back to see where we were. In paragraph 3, I just wrote next to bullet number 3, recommendation that made reasonable considerations for restoration protection of ecosystem. That's only particular to us. But prior to that, I would add something about the long-term infrastructure for town. Because it comes up later in your document here. We have to talk about bridges and tunnels in town. There's one bridge in particular, or I don't know if we call it a bridge or a tunnel, but it goes under the railroad tracks. That's gonna get approved sometime.
The question is that in 3, which is specifically what the state requirements are, or is it in 4 and
It-
stuff that we need to address?
To my knowledge, if you want to fix that bridge I'm talking about, which is at
You
Leroy,
do have to put it in.
it's gotta be in 2 plans in a row.
Okay.
And same with, I remember that from Glenn.
Well, I know Glenn said, sometimes and I know John and I just got an email today from the Westcott saying, hey, as the state builds up its plans, if there's things you want that are already in your plan, that you can start lining it up. So it is helpful to get a little momentum through more than one plan as we talk about change. What changes do we, again, Darien's got numerous state highways that go through it.
Great.
But as you said, bridges,
I think it was
road widenings, things like
I
that.
think it had to do with funding, and I remember in particular, we put in the culvert that goes under, that connects Old Kings Highway North, Old Kings Highway South. That thing clogged up under a major flood this year. Somehow it backed up and it flooded on both sides. If we ever wanted to get that thing replaced, and I think that the trigger, what Glenn was talking about, if we ever want to get state funding, that's got to be in the plan. So I don't know what page it's on.
I don't know yet either.
You got to be able to point to something that was in the plan.
Steve, when is the next state POCD finalized?
I'm sorry?
The state plan, usually they run a little behind schedule because it needs so many state legislators, I believe, to vote on it. They are just in the process of adopting the state plan, I think, over the next couple months. So very timely.
Interesting.
That we'll track that down once it's adopted.
Okay.
Yeah, I think in your last, in the paragraph, it says, require a list of topics in POD must address, such as improvements to public facilities, plan improvement information. That's what I'm talking about, like the bridges and tunnels. Then the next, I keep going down a little bit, the number 4, said protection of conceptual plans and illustrations in the POCD. We did that in the last 10 one, and the chairman at the time almost had a heart attack,
Okay.
and it got pulled out.
Oh, really? Okay.
Because in that document was a conceptual plan of parking garages all over downtown, including the Center Street lot,
Yeah.
and that landed up on the editor's floor. It was never to be seen after the second meeting. So that's the kind of stuff that don't go too conceptual. What else? And I don't mean to be picky on you, but the consultant, he wrote that ultimately H&H will prepare the draft and final POCD. That's actually not true. Your H&H will prepare the draft and finals for the P&Z. We're the author. You're not the author.
Understood.
You're kind of like a lawyer that drafts a contract.
Right.
You're not signing it. We're signing it. You know, so it's our plan. It's not H&H.
Right, it's not our H&H's plan, yeah. Thank you.
The next one down, the body has the authority to draft, review, and adopt. You just wrote, you said the town, it's ultimately the P&Z has the authority to review and adopt. We're drafting it. You're not. You're drafting at our instruction.
Got it.
What else? And then you go into the other stuff is out of the state statutes. And then if you go, and this is just stuff to think about, and I think we put it in the last one. I'm looking at the second page of the state requirements. It says multi-purpose trails and walkings. That we tried doing a bike trail last time, and now there is a plan. So there's a soft plan for a bike trail to connect New Canaan and Greenwich. That's something that, you know, we would, in my opinion, we would love to plan for Darien, where that thing could go. I have the foggiest idea. But in towns like Ridgefield and Upper Norwalk and all that stuff, you have those old right-of-ways that are under high-tension power lines. You also have old railroad tracks. You have old Super 7 was supposed to go through. Those things in Ridgefield, in Wilton, those are being converted to bike trails. We don't have those here. There's no.
Yeah, I've had a couple of people come in and see me about that for exactly kind of what they're planning. It's going to be very hard to get that to route through town in a practical way. I mean, we could try it, but I don't see where it would go.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But I think that's what they're talking about. And you know, we have walking trails in a lot of our parks. Some of them are envisioned, some of them are not. But maybe you can put a bike trail inside a woodland park or something like that, where kids can, in the park that's behind my house, it says no bikes allowed. When COVID hit, every single kid was on their bike riding through that thing.
Yeah.
But that's not your document.
So yeah, so this summary is really, it's if anybody, we're not gonna feature it because it's just, it's if somebody wants to link on it, wants more details, they can click on it. So that's why that's really there.
The stuff that jumps out to me is the new stuff they added in yellow and the stuff that they took out.
Yeah.
Because some of those things we were talking about, and they come up in the legislative session in the state capitol. That's all the stuff that's on page 3. It's pretty much permit home sharing zones for 4 persons. To be honest with you, that disability housing thing that's in here, that's because of the town of Darien. We're the first ones in the state of Connecticut that built one of those. I'm not saying that good. And then the last thing I would caution, let's get this thing finished before July 1st. We'll have to get into the sewers.
Wait, repeat what you just said?
It says, no, actually, we are going to have to do that. I thought that was 2016. We have to do that then. Any municipality constitutional plan for adoption after July 1st, 2015, you have to do the following. Okay.
Right, we'll be putting Neil in touch with Ed Gentile of Sewer Services, sit down with him, talk about some of the capital items forthcoming, and because he's in charge of sanitary sewer and also storm sewer,
Right.
drainage in town.
Because we paid I don't know how many millions of dollars to do a lot of sewer systems or drainage system in select neighborhoods in town. There's other that came up on a wish list, including one over here, but to save 2 houses, it was like millions of dollars or something like that. I don't think that ever gets.
Right. There's one in the drawing board now, stormwater in the Forge, Coach Lamp, Salt Box.
Right, and what's the one that's over by Holmes Avenue that was redone?
Was it, oh, it was,
Yeah, it's off of Middlesex Road, it goes
Yeah.
down, the guy used to, who was always in the front page of the paper. They just did it, it's off of, it's between West Avenue.
Devon,
Yes, that's it.
that's one of the streets. Yep.
Some of that stuff
That was
was
done
done.
a couple years
Okay.
ago.
So that's gonna be inexpensive, you're gonna meet with all those guys.
That's Public Works, right, Jay?
Yep.
Public Works and
Public Works.
Yeah, and the sewer commission, right?
Yep, certainly the sewer commission, yep.
Then the last item, and I don't know if Jeremy told you about this, in your timeline,
Mhm.
it says the draft POCD is gonna come to us in February of 2016,
26.
2026, sorry. The way it worked last time, which I thought was actually brilliant,
Mhm.
is the consultant came in, I'm gonna say once a month, right? And he went section by section.
Oh,
So we reviewed 6 pages. And they said, okay, this is the section on those 6
Oh,
pages.
yeah.
We did the 6 pages, got it. We
Mhm.
made all of our corrections and wordsmithing and all that good stuff. And then we never saw it again. But if you grabbed all 16 of those chapters
Right, right.
and you compared it to the draft we got at the end, my changing of the word that was, they to them was in the new one.
Mhm.
And we never saw it again. So the last thing I want you to do is give me the draft POCD on a Thursday night
Mhm.
and say, we're going over this on Tuesday morning.
Right, right,
And the thing's, 200 pages.
right.
Is that, it's,
Yeah, that's, yeah.
I don't know how you've done your plans in advance, but that's how ours was done the last go around.
I've never done a chapter by chapter. I mean, that's a good way to just have a small, concise
Yeah.
thing people review.
Because he did chapter by chapter and he had 3 holes in it and it went chapter 1, chapter 8, chapter 6, chapter 3. He
Mhm.
bounced around, but if I have all these chapters, he had holes in them, you can put them in a binder, and when the eventual plan came out, which is the one you have now, it's all dead on, it was already there.
Mhm. Interesting. Yeah, so well, let's think about something like that as we.
I would just have you guys come into our meetings for a half an hour, 45 minutes, more often than just twice,
Mhm.
and do it, and I would also have you guys come back to us before the April workshop. Number one. Because we talked about a couple things tonight, and there might be other ideas that come up.
Yeah.
We're really just meeting you, and you're really just meeting us.
Right, right, and so, I mean, I did put some dates down for, February 28th, April 11th, for potential, where you can have us in the agenda if there's time, and as I said, we'll have specific things to talk about, so,
Yeah.
and get feedback from.
Yeah, I would rather do 10 half-hour meetings with you guys than 1 4-hour meeting, that's for sure. Okay, and I don't know if that's how you plan your pricing or whatnot in the contract, but that's it. Anybody have any other questions for Neil and Malcolm?
Not at this time.
Okay. Malcolm, is there anything you wanted to add? Are you good? Because I want to see if any of the public, there's a bunch of
Yeah.
sports fans here that want to talk.
Well, we haven't covered the website yet, it's the last item. Do you
Oh,
want
go
to cover
ahead.
that first?
Go ahead.
Yeah, and then maybe people, so this is the draft website. Again, there will be changes in terms of the name of the project, and we'll adjust the logo on that. But ultimately, it's a website. I wanted to give people a way to interact right away with us, and so there's a 10-second survey here. What's one thing what's one thing that would make life in Darien better for you or family? And that's just something they can do as a short thing and submit it. And we can collect those and eventually, collect all that data and see what happens. But of course, there'll be other things too that we're doing besides that. That's just one kind of really low-hanging fruit for people. There's a page, the FAQ page. This is where the text that we just gave you with changes that'll be made based on your comments will go. There's a page on the 2016 POCD People can have the option of clicking here. Maybe it's worth actually showing the table of contents too, also as an image, just kind of how the selectman was saying for the FAQ, just so people could see what the contents of the plan was. So it just kind of summarizes really briefly the plan document. They'll have it, we're going to take some of the content eventually, the existing goals and such, and people will be able to evaluate them, whether it's through the survey or whatnot. So this won't be the only exposure they have to the 2016 POCD on this website. We'll have a kind of a shortened graphic schedule here on this page that just highlights the milestones. Something, sometimes you see those nice graphics that that are just easy to read, and it just goes through the the 5 steps of getting to the POCD and when the public events will be. So the subscribe page, what I've done is, this is the opening message that, at least this is the draft of the opening message that is presented to people here when this website is launched. And what people can do is subscribe, and if they subscribe, this actually will move down, and there'll be something more updated over here. And anytime there's a new update on this part of the site, people will receive an email message. So they don't have to go to the site, they'll just get an email message. So the site has been updated, take a look, that sort of thing. So we just kind of wanted to make it as easy as possible to let people know that there's something going on. And each time that happens, if it's an event, we'll coordinate with the town in terms of getting the word out through other means as well. And so it's here's the other town plans and studies. The Great Island Vision Plan website is linked to that. The other documents from up until 2016. So it's it's fairly simple. The contact us form is critical, because this is how people can interact with us, and there's some things we need to work out with Jeremy and Fred about, like, who responds to them if they need a response, how much time should we say, like, do we, we'll respond if your question requires a response, please give us 1 or 2 business days. There's potentially, we can have, if people want to, I've had this many times in other towns, people want to write something, they'll email a letter. They can, we can set this up so that people can upload something and send it to us if they'd like to do it that way rather than use a comment form. This is, we want to give people, number one, before the survey comes out, we want to give people the opportunity to learn about the project. And also, I hear from Jeremy that people want to contribute right now with comments, and so the site gives them the opportunity to do that if they want to do that now. So that's the website. Happy to take any comments on it.
I have 3 questions.
Sure.
The 10-second survey,
Yeah.
how do you stop people from saying lower my taxes or make my schools bigger?
We can't.
I mean, that's the biggest thing.
Right. Yeah, it could be traffic. It could be, we don't know. I mean,
The traffic is under us,
Yeah.
but lower my taxes.
Yeah.
got nothing
Right,
to do.
that's a good point. You'll get things that might be out of the purview of the POCD.
I want Spanish in the classrooms. That came up 11 years ago.
Yeah. I mean,
That's not even another do with this.
no, you have a point. You have a good point there, right? In terms of getting things which aren't, the POCD is not going to, govern or have recommendations for.
The second item
Yeah.
is, how do you know where these people live? The last thing I want is someone from Brooklyn
Right.
telling me what to do.
Um,
No offense to guys from Long Island.
Right.
Because
For this
it's supposed to be
10-second
good,
survey, you can't. Yeah, you're right, you can't. It tracks the IP addresses and stuff, but you can't. If you go the extra mile, you can find out where they are. But, right, you essentially, you don't know. I've always had, anytime I've done a survey, a fair question that people ask, whether it's a formal survey or something like this, is, how do you know people aren't gaming the system?
That's
that
what
sort
I care
of
about.
thing,
There's a
and
guy
happy
that, when we
residents.
did 7-Eleven, the guy that wanted 7-Eleven in town lived in Norwalk.
Yeah. So,
okay.
yeah. So, but in reality, you can go through. You can if you see duplicate IP addresses, or because usually when you do a survey, it's only one one IP address per survey entry, so you're at least people aren't, plugging in 5 entries. So essentially, to get down to your point, no, there's nothing I can do in this one, the way it's designed to control responses that are out of the realm of POCD. So
just, it kind of depends on how you're going to use the survey results. If
Right,
you're
exactly.
using it to measure the number of people who said they want a pool, I think that's a mistake, because you're not collecting demographics, you don't know where they're from, all that.
Right.
If you're just using it as a dumping ground, you're going to curate the comments that come in, and your objective is to share with the board or the commission particularly creative ideas, or how that's an interesting suggestion.
Yeah.
Sure, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where it comes from. If it was interesting, we might think about it and then say throw it in a survey to really get people to react to it.
Yeah.
But beyond that, as long as you're not going to use it for anything more than that, then it doesn't matter.
It would be
Well,
difficult
doesn't
to
matter.
analyze data that was.
Just don't use it as a barometer for what people think.
I would-
Right.
I would chime into that for the 10-second survey, but also for the pop-up, right?
Yeah.
In the interest of reaching people who would not normally interact with this process,
There you go.
that one of the best things to come out of it is the idea that no one in this room thought of, whatever that is.
Which
And
might
if it's a
come-
good idea, and we all agree it's a good idea, it doesn't really matter where it came from,
Unless
right?
it's from Brooklyn.
Unless it's from Norwalk, exactly.
Yeah.
Or Long Island.
What about Queens?
My niece lives in Brooklyn.
You said it, come on.
Long Island's different.
I
Is it
will
her
just
birthday?
note, as a realtor, we have many people coming from Brooklyn who like Darien, so just.
So, exactly.
FYI.
That's why they want to change it. That's why they're leaving Brooklyn to come to Darien. It's great the way it is.
Carry on.
So yeah, there's no. You're right. I mean,
Queens.
I think the key thing is, right, what are you going to do with that data that you get? I think really it's the townwide survey. That's really the more thing that we're really looking at more deeply. This is really
Quick
just like,
interaction, clever suggestions, that's it.
yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Public comment?
Anything else, Neil?
That's it. Just if there are any other questions or comments about the website or any other of the materials that I share with you.
I'd get rid of that black banner at the top, and I'm not sure what the search functionality is, because nobody's gonna use that. But make your life easier.
I think I can get rid of the top black banner. The search function, yeah, I think
Which is a WordPress
when you start
default.
piling up entries, it may be useful, but
It's up to you.
yeah, I don't think the average person's going to look for the search function,
Yeah.
use the search function, as Google.
Did
So
the Great Island website have a DarienCT.gov
Yes.
address? Because the WordPress address.
oh right, this is just a temporary
It's gonna be
address.
published to the Darien site.
Okay, so it'll have a .gov
Yeah.
address like.
Right, this is a temporary address, and I was going to coordinate with, because I noticed that the Great Vision had greatvision.darien.ct.gov, and I was like, oh, how'd that happen? I would like to do that too for this
Yeah.
process, so yeah,
Okay.
we'll continue.
We're going to keep working on that.
And I assume
That's
we'll
fine.
put a link to this from the P&Z sub-page
P&Z
on the
page
town
and
site
all
too,
that,
of
yeah.
course, right?
Once
Maybe
this kind of gets off the
big
ground.
letters right at the top so people can
Yep.
see it and not buried at the bottom.
Yep.
Okay. We want to move on because it's already 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
But I do want to open it. Does anybody in the public would like to speak to this document or what we're doing tonight? Please, come on up. Just state your name and your affiliation for the record. Welcome.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing us to speak. I wasn't prepared to actually share comments, but my name is Elizabeth Mathis. I am the Executive Director of the Darien Land Trust. We preserve and protect over 230 acres here in town of open green space. It's multiple ecosystems from wetlands to upland meadows to forests. I didn't hear much conversation about conservation. We heard a lot about development this evening. And just for history and for the record, back in 2016, our executive director played an integral role in shaping the POCD in 2016. I've actually uncovered numerous letters between Shirley Nichols and Mr. Ginsburg. So they were really involved as a participant in shaping this document. So I look forward to hopefully having that opportunity with you all and with you as well. So any questions that you have about conservation, we are a leading voice in that area, and we look forward to working with you. Thank
It
you.
is called the Town Plan of Conservation is the first word.
Correct. I was
Development
going to point that out, but,
Development was added
I was
after
going to
the
lead
fact.
with that. But no, it's really, we have an obligation to really find a way to put conservation at the forward part of this conversation, because the 230 acres that we do have under our protection shape the look and feel of Darien. And that's something that we need to protect moving forward. And
I live back up to Olson Woods where the kids ride their bikes.
Yes, no bikes. And that's for a reason.
It's not my bike.
No.
It's one thing my kid didn't do.
And
Anybody
I look forward
else?
to talking to you more about Olson Woods development.
Great, thanks. He didn't ride his bike. We don't have a bike, I don't think.
Did bring you to the beach then.
Yes, he did.
Hello, I'm Juliet Kane, and I'm
Welcome.
an advisor to the Land Trust Stewardship Advisor. And I don't have much more to say than what Elizabeth already said, but I did want to point out it is the plan of conservation and development. And I do understand also that it's the responsibility of planning and zoning. And I also represent a number of other organisations, but I'm part of a number of conservation organisations in town, and I do think in looking back at 2016, a lot of the action steps that weren't implemented relate very much to conservation themed concepts, and so I didn't hear much about how conservation ideas were going to be incorporated. I did see public comment and some kind of ad hoc pop-ups, which may be conservation related, may not be. So I would really just like to see a more concerted effort at addressing conservation issues, particularly ones that weren't adapted. And I am aware that the Planning and Zoning Commission does have the right to set up a subcommittee of interested people, so if that would be something else that would be very helpful if we could have some volunteers have a more active role to assist more than anything else, but just to add that voice to the mix.
Yeah, we could think about that, but we didn't have it the last 20
No, I know you
years.
didn't, no. It was just something.
That's our purview, not
No,
his purview.
absolutely. It is your purview. It was just something that I thought it may help just give, more voice, more public voice. We can help get information from our members and that sort of thing, just to give you more input. Thank you very much for letting us speak.
Thank you. Everybody else good? Fantastic. All right, Neil. You hear what some of the public said. Just make sure it's a conservation and not just.
Right, thank you. And I guess the last question I have is in terms of, any changes I have, based on what we've spoken about here, is this something I should give to Jeremy and Fred to kind of give the final okay on? Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. We're meeting, when are we meeting again?
We're going to have Neil back probably the fourth Tuesday in February, February 25th, I believe.
I think I had 28th down, but it could be the wrong
I think
date.
it's the
Well,
Tuesday.
why don't we do this? If anything else pops up, you're launching on the 7th, right? We're meeting on the 4th, so if there's anything between
Yeah,
that
next
we
week.
want,
We can look
next
at
we
whatever
can talk
we
about
want.
next week. Anything that changes between now and the 4th, or now and the 3rd, get it back to us, and if we have any comments on the 4th, we'll give you the comments on the 4th, you can still launch on the 7th.
Oh,
We don't
so-
want to slow you down at all.
So the 4th, you have another meeting, okay, all right.
Yeah.
We meet all the time.
Okay.
More meetings than anybody else in town. All right?
Okay,
You guys cool? Any other questions?
thank you.
All right, let's move on. Thanks for coming tonight. You're welcome to stay if you want, but I really wanted you for that one. Thank you, sir.
Stick around.
All right.
Only got a couple hours.
I get to leave early too.